Awesome. Another episode of Heroic Hospitality with Robert Champion. Welcome, Robert Champion.
Hi, Mario.
Wow, so you're one of the first guests on the show. Makes a ton of sense since we're partners in Beacon. Wanted to give a recap, right, for where we are, where we were, what we're excited about, and our next kind of evolution and step as business partners, which I'm super pumped on. We talk a lot about it. Just got back from Miami, which we'll talk about. We're actually in the space, which we're calling Beacon 2.0, because we still haven't landed on something yet, which that process has been super fun. What else can I say for an intro? Last time we spoke, we had the location, right? Didn't we had the location? We signed the lease, but we weren't actually able to occupy, or?
Yeah, the thing that a lot of people don't recognize as the news kind of comes out is that we've actually been talking about this location since the spring.
That's right. That's right. And these projects take about a year from like lease signing. So this is a first generation space right down the street from Beacon, gorgeous building. And that typically takes about a year. And you've been spearheading this, the construction part of it, been talking a lot with the artists. And I'd love to learn a little more on your experience with talking with some of these artists and your creative process. I know you're going through your own kind of creative process and evolution, and so am I, and a lot of people that are close to us are as well. What's that process been like for you, as like personally, and then we can talk about it through like the business lens.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been really fascinating because unlike Beacon, we have a little leading theme at this location. And the story's kind of evolved as they do, and it'll surely evolve more as the art gets finalized, right? Because we don't exactly know what that's going to be called or for sure which room is going to have. But the lead ingredient we went with was the homely theme, as you can see. Yeah. It's very homely with the brick. There's hardwood, and we wanted to go something that we call classic and quirky, really. And so we've been receiving a lot of proposals for art projects for rooms and bars for months now, actually. And just recently have a handful that are from some former Meow Wolf artists, which is really exciting to go through, some professionals that are doing projects across town as well. And so we're still kind of in the art recruitment process. And it's been fascinating, to give people a canvas and also learn how to communicate our vision a little bit more clearly, especially when it comes to what it means to have a nice, classy place that is ultimately super friggin' weird.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Right.
And one of the major differences with this project as well is that it's been an opportunity for me to express some creative or propose some art myself, and alongside my partner Dawson, which is exciting because she actually has a small background in creating festival stages and making art and especially decor. So it's been nice to be on kind of both sides of the fence, and honestly, there's definitely some advantages to that too, because having gone through Beacon 1, we know all of the challenges, the sprinkler heads, the electrical, all like we're also managing the construction. So I can tell what is going to go wrong in advance, and we can kind of work around it more efficiently.
That's awesome. That's a great distillation. So this will be a fun fact for people that don't know you like super well. You've been a creator in a lot of ways through your entire life through music, and Holly, my partner, my girlfriend, when we saw you perform for the first time, our jaws dropped. It was so amazing. Has this part of the this creative process inspired more like personal art for you, like playing more music, or are you kind of looking? And I also know that you're a huge Subaru enthusiast, one of the biggest companies, Subaru enthusiast companies in the festivals in the country, and you love building cars, and I know that's also a creative outlet for you. But how has this process influenced your personal life?
It's been more in alignment, honestly. You brought up music, and when I first picked up a guitar at the age of 14, I didn't know how to play it, obviously, so I just started writing my own songs.
Yeah.
Immediately, straight out the gate. So I've always been more likely to make something than become a library, which is, I get asked a lot if I DJ. It's like, nah, I don't library well. It'd be more productive for me to sit down and even today, just like start producing another track.
That's awesome.
And then with events, I do own all the largest Subaru enthusiast gatherings across the United States. It's a career in business from my prior decade, and it's taught me a lot about how to pay attention to. Well, I say attendee experience because that's the phrase that we use over there. Here it would be guest experience, but that's a lot of my ability to really pick up on the nuance of where someone's at in their experience and how things flow and what's happening to them every second of the way. Just like we have a lot of overlap in that, obviously, through restaurants. It's like we're both thinking about the bathroom line and what they're experiencing, or the line out front, or like where are they going to sit, or are they confused, or is, like how are people engaging with them? Like we're you and I are very in tune with those details, and mine kind of just comes from a totally different arena, which is really cool. But I've always hosted experiences of so many different types, from potlucks to 100-person DJ parties and beautiful places to just you name it. I host as much as I have the physical resource to.
You're great at it too. I've been to a lot of these. Okay, yeah. So coming back maybe to the artist experience or our experience with artists at the new location, I'll just kind of give everybody a little nugget of kind of what we're creating here, and I'll just start with the facade, and I'll end at the facade, which is we're gonna have two different entrances. One of the entrances is gonna behave just like Beacon, so you go in and out the same door for our main bar, and then the other entrance it's a single door with a garage door, but the building is broken up into two very identifiable areas, like a left side and a right side, which is I find awesome and fascinating. And I just think we're just going to have a lot of opportunity to do more things, more private events here, I think is really cool. More intimate 12-person events, which is going to be super cool. Two different bars, just like at Beacon. One will be the main bar, which will have 3 wells, just like at Beacon. If people don't know, it's just like 3 bartenders behind the main bar at Beacon, and then we'll have another satellite bar, which is like a single bar. So I think this space the potential to offer more to the guest at different times of the day is what we're going after. Maybe you can talk a little bit about like how we're going to change just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, with this second location, we have the history and learnings from the first location, and while we knocked it out of the park in so many ways over there, obviously after 9 o'clock, we decided over here we should put a lot more energy towards the before 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we said it before, and we'll say it again. Whereas Beacon excels as the best place to dance, this location will excel as the best place to sit.
Yes.
Before we dance. And
either way we're dancing.
Yeah, exactly. We're never not dancing. But what we did was, through the floor plan and some creative back and forth, was come up with a strategy to scale the place for the demand and what's happening, time of day and which day. So like obviously Saturday night at 11 p.m. is a very different experience from 5 p.m. on a Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And by having multiple entrances, and obviously we're not sharing the layout, and especially not the location right now, but by having separate entrances, we can essentially close off half of the bar entirely and have an intimate cocktail weekday experience that meets the demand for us on a Wednesday. But then when it's party mode, we can open up the bigger bar, the other entrance, and have people come in just like they do over at Beacon. Yeah. And this place, to your point, is very much like Beacon in terms of it has a big main bar, it has an intimate dance floor, it has 2 art rooms, it has a smaller bar, with the main differences being that the art rooms and the smaller bar are much bigger which allows for more seating, and it also allows for the option to have a standalone bar and also, to your point, a rentable space separately.
So I'm so excited about that. I think it lends a lot to both of our pasts. I think the other thing that's very different about this location is that there's no backyard, which we're excited about. We're happy about. We can control the environment. And we overindulged in the bathroom experience, which will be pleasurable for everybody that comes in. So we just got back. We're cold in here, so that's why we're wearing these jackets.
It is a construction site.
So we just got back from Miami. We went on a little inspiration run. Mm-hmm. Stayed in Wynwood. It's Art Basel weekend. This will be released sometime, at the beginning of next year. So we'll be reliving this podcast and that experience and warm experience. It's going to be dead of winter. I had a lot of great memories at Art Basel. We got to just kind of walk around and kind of go with the flow one night. And one of the main differences in Miami, it's ultimately it's a world-class city. But one of the main things is it opens until whenever, which was awesome to not have that pressure of that 2:00, a.m. pressure, which we experience in Denver. And it's we had Darrell Watson on the podcast last night, councilman, and we talked actually kind of extensively about the 2:00 and the dangers that 2:00 closure that people just in the world experience. It's just you got to pay attention, What are give me a highlight for you? Like, what was one of your highlights?
Oh, man.
I mean, I know it's hard to pin one. Maybe highlights referencing this business model, not your personal experience. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember we were at Do Not Sit, which a lot of people know. It's a very, very big name brand across the country. And first of all, I thought that place would be way bigger based on the name. And it was actually even smaller than our space. It's amazing. And I remember looking at the bar and thinking, like, if our bar wasn't selling drinks right now, we'd be having a panic attack. But they have all night. They don't have to jam it in from basically 10:30 p.m. when people are kind of getting into that dance mode until 1:30 a.m. It's a very limited window, and they can focus more on the experience. And I think as a result, even people are a little bit less saturated with alcohol, which was kind of nice. It felt more like people were able to not force it.
Yeah, a little more engaged.
Yeah,
is what I experienced
and people
too.
were really engaged there. So I really like that. It changes the dynamic across the board. Obviously it's Miami. Cover charge down there is sometimes 10 times what it is here, and you also are experiencing a much longer thing. It's going till 4 or 5 a.m. and seeing world-class DJs with world-class sound. And
the audio experience was insane.
It is insane, yeah. And I would actually say that with most of the places that we went, the audio investment was large, but in a way that which is kind of the norm. And I think it really comes from a place of Miami just having exquisite tastes for things in general, for art, for sound, for food. It's a pretty mature city.
Yes.
and a very taste-oriented city, and I don't just mean food taste. I mean taste and experience and everything, really. And
Agreed.
So, pristine sound and a bass you could feel. You could hear each other talk pretty much everywhere we went. It was a great inspiration for us to try to bring some of that energy to Denver, obviously.
Super cool. I think we were both pretty blown away with that experience, and I think it started at the front door.
Yeah.
It started at the front door.
Yeah, the doorman told me on the way out that he had a mentor.
Yeah.
I'd like to do a lap around Denver and see how many doormen have had a mentor for that career.
Yeah.
That is really, we have, I think, the best doorman in Denver
100%,
by a lot.
James. Big shout out to James Wright.
Yeah.
He's been with us pretty much since the beginning, and we love him up there, and he's so good with people.
He's the perfect guy.
He's gentle. He's kind. He's on it,
Yep. He's a big teddy bear, but he's fierce if he needs to be.
Yeah.
And and this guy was so gentle, the way that In Miami, there's just people walking up. Literally, someone said, "I'm seeing DJ Sit," or "I'm friends with DJ Sit," and he's like, "At do not sit." You're okay.
It's the only thing they could come up with.
But even just how I just said that, it's like I was 10 times more rude than he was. He was still so gentle and everyone's friend.
Eye contact. I remember that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had the look too. He had that most interesting man look.
He did.
That's cool. Yeah. So we got to learn a lot about, in a short period of time, like what makes Miami clubs special. The audio, they invest in the front door. The front door person invests in themselves, looks at it as a career. It's just a very interesting take on all of it. And I was blown away. It's the first time I actually went out looking for certain experiences, mainly club related. So, why? Let's talk about this event we just had. I mean, this event, we were fucking blown away by just what simple uplights did to brick wall. Like, it was really sexy in here.
It was.
For a short period. I mean, it took us, it was a lot of effort. I know, Katerina and Dawson, they were like trying to fancy this place, and you were here running around, and we were all trying to make it look nice. It didn't take much effort, though. It might have took some time, but it wasn't hard to make it look sexy.
Yeah, a couple hours and the bin of floodlights that I literally just bring with me to parties.
Yeah,
and
your suitcase in Miami.
And it changed this place and gave it a mood that, honestly, even though I was imagining it beforehand, it actually blew my expectations out of the water.
It was so good, and people were blown away.
Yeah, they didn't want to leave.
Yeah, it was. We actually had another beautiful venue to go to afterwards, one of our friends' house, and it was like people were still drinking, and like kind of just liked it. Yeah. No place to sit, they just liked it in here. It was some good validation and really fun to spend time in here, in a social environment, and we invested in that evening and in our friends and really made a big effort to invite a lot of influential people here. A lot of those people, the intention was that we were going to approach them as a potential investor. So it was an investor party. And we got to share a stage together, talked a little bit about that. Maybe through your lens, what was some of the highlights, or maybe share a little bit about that speech that you kind of talked a little bit about, and what can you share with the listeners of?
Yeah, well, first, I was actually blown away by how many people came. I remember thinking it was like, 30, 40 maybe, and it wound up being closer to like 70. And so it was a big crowd, which was a huge compliment. Sometimes fundraising is a little bit scary, especially when you're in Tuesday emailing a deck around mode, and people don't get back to you even though you know them and they're your friend, and you're going to see them for dinner in 2 days. It's like there's still just an awkward scarcity thing behind it, at least in the beginning. So once we hit that event, and there were more people than we could honestly even give tours, and also investment conversations to. So it was ultra validating, and felt very lucky, and it actually did lead to a lot of great post-fundraising event conversations. But one of the major points that we hit, aside from some of the tour components where art rooms and bars are going to go, is to really talk about what are we doing here in RiNo, which, anyone who invests in something like this is looking for a little bit more of the why behind the project, and so I could talk about it on a high level, which is in RiNo, we as in you and I and our team, we have a pretty unique opportunity in this moment to steer what nightlife looks like for the neighborhood. As we expand and have more of a contingent, that's actually kind of, in a sense, especially if we kept going with future locations, in a sense, it would start to create new norms about or around how people get together in a space and what they can expect and how they should be treated. And, even just the small details of, how lighting and sound and texture and all the basic stuff is done, but also like more the spirit and the intention and the fact that we have principles posted in our bathrooms and we're giving people permission to be themselves. Beyond our locations, we just want this to become normal for every
We do.
establishment, you know.
Yeah, we do.
You know, in a sense, it's almost like shooting ourselves in the foot. But like businesses will come and go, you know. But like I called you once and I said, Mario, we'll only ever have one Denver, you know, and that's why it's important that we keep doing this and that we set an example for what is possible.
Yeah.
On a more local level, and as in between our walls, there's an opportunity to get people together in a way that we're currently not at Beacon. You know, again, Beacon excels at 9 p.m. and afterwards. However, before 9 p.m., it kind of falls flat on its face. You know, and that wasn't our original intention. It was what we learned. You know, we can always speculate. You know, why we didn't take off as a happy hour place when there's so many places on the street that do happy hour and have a pretty good crowd, especially in the summertime. And while we can speculate that, what we can really do is focus our energy on figuring out what to do with this place to address it. So that's where we've been pouring a lot of energy. I don't know if you can tell in this, but there's natural light on this cloudy day coming through. Like, that is a major ingredient that we lack over there, right?
It is.
So
yeah,
that's just such a basic thing. If someone's going to come for a drink at 5 p.m., do they want to be sitting in a completely dark, walled-off place? Especially in the summertime? Probably not, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, how else can we be open to the street? Whereas Beacon, it's hard to tell it's even a bar if you've never been there, because you look in and there's a wall.
Right.
So it's like, with this location being focused on being as open as possible, having multiple entrances,
and a patio.
and a front patio, and really being like as engaging with the sidewalk and the people walking by for as many hours as possible, you know, and through that, we'll also want to become and be more approachable to everyone, not just the more trendy leaning nightlife goers, which is amazing to give the people we have a space. However, there's a lot of people, I mean, thousands of people walking by every day that don't walk into Beacon. And we want to greet those people with open arms.
One of the fascinating things about Beacon that we, and one of the biggest allures, I think, speaking for you a little bit, was like this backyard. We tried to engage the backyard, celebrate the backyard, and I still feel like we have a lot of work to do exposing our backyard to people that don't even know it's there. Like, I talk to people all the time and they're like, Beacon has a backyard? And I'm just blown away by that. What do you think our disconnect was with that experience and how we, position our backyard as our, part of our marketing strategy and whatnot? What do you think it is?
I'm going to say something outrageous, and just hear me out.
Yeah.
It's not that people are subconsciously part sheep. It's that we're also part moth. So,
yeah.
If you turn on a light in one place and turn it off on someone, we will just gradually go towards the light, right?
Yeah.
And then the same thing when it comes to people. We just want to be near an energy. And so I've sat in our backyard and watched people walk out, see that there is not a party or any energy, or like it's kind of just mostly empty, and then walk back and then just leave and be like, wow, it's beautiful. And it is, I think, obviously I'm biased, it is the most beautiful outdoor space in the entire neighborhood.
I think so too.
However, because we're not creating an energy back there where there's people, engaging with the space during the earlier hours, it just doesn't pick up. Whereas when you're on the sidewalk, like some other places, like every other place basically, you walk by and you can see that there's like a thing going on and it's a great place to grab a drink because there's other people around. A lot of people don't want to go to an empty spot. You're looking for that
it's a visual deal.
People energy thing. Yeah. And, our biggest limitation is the fact that we can't have sound because we're up against the neighborhood. Yes. But if we had outdoor...
Curtis Park is what he's talking about.
Yeah, which, they don't, and they shouldn't,
it's not RiNo.
Hear music bumping if they don't want to. So, but if we had sound, that is just like the light reference, that pulls people. And if that pulls people, people pull people. You know what I mean? Like, it would create an energy that was more successful than we currently are.
Yeah.
So if you want a quiet place, it actually is a great day. It's about the backyard.
100%.
A quiet place to have a happy hour drink.
Yeah. Especially in the summer when we have the bar shed, literally bar shed.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And one thing that I'm really proud of us I'm really proud of us for a lot of things, but one thing in particular is like we invested heavily in our sound system and our audio experience, and we were unable to fully utilize that and fully see the potential of our audio experience. And it wasn't until, we got some feedback from the neighborhood. So then we cinder blocked the main wall in the dining room, on the dance floor, and then we invested in flying out one of the our sound system is Traction, and we invested in bringing out one of their specialists to help us tweak that a little bit. What was that like? Because I know you actually led that, and we're both very happy with the results. I think it is important that we say this on the podcast, that it's like, yes, we had a deficiency with our sound at the beginning, but we have changed that and invested in that experience now for the customer, for the guest. What was that like for you, having Bobby come out here from Traction? I know it was a big deal for you. So
yeah, and I'll actually say that, we talked about do not sit. We were at the table that you and I were sitting at. I was sitting next to another gentleman named Doug, who actually has been through Beacon a bunch, and he said something got better about your sound system in the last 6 months. Like he knew.
What a compliment.
Like he knew that something had shifted. So, the audio guys will definitely notice something.
Yeah, and the artist.
So it was exciting to bring Bobby from Traction Sound out, because he is obviously he's their lead engineer, and he's a wizard, and he managed to tweak things in a way that we definitely needed. But more importantly, we actually did some sound tests from our neighbor's living room, so that we could turn it up, but then turn down the frequencies that were bothering them specifically.
Yeah.
So that was probably one of the major differences. So it's actually a lot louder in there for us in a way that we like. Still not too loud, but we wanted it louder, but in a way that's not bothering them, which is, kind of rule number one.
Another reason why I'm really proud of us for that.
Yeah.
We actually went after the neighbors that were experiencing the most, the most low frequency, and tried to work with them. And I think the relationship has been great since then. We've seen them since then, and they've been very complimentary of us as an example in the neighborhood, which we love talking about, because we do work hard on, making sure that it's not only our experience that's really important and the guest experience, but it's also the neighborhood experience and the experience in Denver, what we offer Denver.
Mm-hmm. And it's literally my dream to live in Curtis Park someday.
Yeah.
And so it's like, even if it was me over there and it's literally our establishment, I still don't want to hear it in my house, So it was easy once we knew there was a problem to say like, oh, well, no, like we're not in the business of bothering people like without their consent first. So we're gonna fix it, So it was very exciting to have Bobby out.
We ripped out the garage door, sealed up the wall. So I think that's good advice for any owner operator. So where we are in this project, we're about halfway funded, just using round numbers. And we have, I think we're really excited about the artists for the main bar. They came through yesterday, very excited about that.
And we'll have sealed the deal with them before they see this, so they don't know that we're already pretty firm. Yes.
Oh no.
During the negotiating,
they won't see this for a while. Yeah. Don't say anything, you two. So we just talked about, like, as Beacon excels in this best place to dance in Denver, like we are really trying to. And when we were calling that, and we still call it, an immersive art and dance bar. A lot of people would call it a club. This, what we're calling, is an immersive art lounge that you then dance in, but immersive art lounge, right? And we've, if there was an artist call to action, we have an RFP, and there's been like a little disconnect with some of these artists that would like send us a mural, like really talented, very amazing textile artists, muralists. What we're creating and what we aspire to create is an immersive art lounge. Could you maybe, any artists that maybe are watching this or want to work with us, tell us what that looks like through our lens a little bit on like what is immersive art for us? How does it work with a bar and in a very public environment?
Yeah. So I think somewhat early on into the artist proposal phase, I realized that I actually owned it. I must have not communicated something well enough in the RFP about what it means to create an immersive art room, because there were definitely some proposals coming through that were like, well, I have these murals that I paint, and it's like, no. That doesn't involve any furniture, which is also part of creating a room. It's 4 walls and a floor and a ceiling and everything in between. That's what we're asking for when we ask for someone to come in with an immersive art room. And also, there's constraints around that too, like the spatial constraints. Some of the rooms are actually technically bars, so there's going to be things to think about, but it's everything is, like the lighting, the seating, what's the experience we're having here. It's immersive art to me means
you're encased.
You're immersed.
Yeah. Not like a coffin.
Right. But that would be quite the theme.
We're going to say no to that if anybody thinks that's a good idea.
Surely there's a goth bar across town that wants that. I actually did when I was at Burning Man. So there was a camp that was literally a coffin that you just got in, and people could hold the whole ceremony for you. It was a whole thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's actually pretty hilarious.
A whole ceremony. So you're in the coffin, and then can you hear
like your friends talking on a microphone? There's like Bibles and it's
Burning
a whole
Man
thing.
Just
yeah.
for that, it's so good. That is so good.
So yeah, with the Immersive Art Lounge and the artists that we're looking for, we want some ownership from an artist over the overall experience in the room. Eventually, likely long after we open, when we have some revenue coming in, that's when we'll start filling in the gaps. That's when we'll think about the hallways and any blank spot left, essentially.
And if you've been to Beacon, a good example is the communal table. Like that was something that we found the artist afterwards and developed that relationship.
Yeah, and people are obsessed with that corner.
Yeah.
But if you looked at it when we were open, it was like you didn't see it because there was so much stuff that was exciting to look at, that now when you walk by, it's one of the first things that people notice. So, cool. I actually emailed all of the people that had proposed art and apologized. I was like, look, I don't think I got the message across about what we're actually creating. And I created a little video tour for them where I also went a little bit more into the theme and the homely nature that's going on here with the brick and the hardwood, and talked about what it meant to create an immersive art room. And a couple came back, and honestly, since getting more clear, the proposals that we've got since have been a little bit more
nice.
And
is that something you're willing to share with people? The video walkthrough, would you share it with people that if they ask for it?
Yeah,
that could be a great thing for the listeners too. Like if they are an artist, they know somebody. Maybe that tour is
so
good.
If you are an artist and you want to do immersive art and you have done it before in some capacity, please email me directly at robert@thebeacon.co.
Yeah.
And before I even have you fill out the proposal, it's helpful to have a little bit of back and forth and more context, because there's only so much you can say on a little blob of text, about the insanity that we're creating here, right? So it's better to just talk about it. And there have been some good proposals coming through that we're especially excited about.
Thankfully, this will be released after we already spoken so highly about the one we're really excited about. Super cool. We walked through last night. And I know, we're great friends, we're business partners, so we've been jumping all over the podcast here, and just a great opportunity to catch up and kind of let people know what we're up to, which I love. I just can't tell you how much I appreciate catching up with you on the podcast. Part of the spirit of celebrating RiNo and Denver and doing our best to present what we're offering and who we are to the world via this podcast. Is there anybody, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, I didn't know where you're going with it, but is there anybody that you would like to, and this will be maybe the last question, but is there anybody that, or anybody or a position that you would like to see on the podcast that I could figure out? We can also put that in the notes too, but think about it. I think this is an opportunity to to celebrate what we're doing, celebrate the neighborhood, celebrate Denver. I've had some great guests on, but is there anybody that...
I'd like to actually see more RiNo folks on here, because I feel like sometimes, how would you have a connection to the people that are running the neighborhood unless you're like very actively involved in some of the stuff like we have been on Mortimer Street.
Like a neighborhood association person, possibly?
Yeah, like to hear...
Merkel's coming on next week. That'll
perfect.
be good,
Yeah, so, to have people invest in us and to have them inspired to invest in the neighborhood via us, like I would say that would help, to really understand what RiNo is aside from a bunch of murals and some restaurants. That there's a whole future for the city right here in this neighborhood.
Perfect. Easy. I will accept that challenge. And our biggest podcast was Juan Pedro over at Mr. Oso, which is just right down the street, which we got to spend some time with in Miami, which was super fun to catch up with him.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being on the show, Robert.
Thank you.
If you guys have any questions, our emails now, so email us. Investors, artists, we're always looking, even for Beacon, artists for Beacon, not investors for Beacon. But we're always available. It's the really cool thing about being owner operators, and most everyone has access to us. So if you have any questions, comments, people you want to see on the show, we're here. So thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yay.